the second month of our unconventional summer, but that doesn't mean we can't have a joyous and jubilant July, especially given that today marks a celebration of Jamaica's creative musical prowess. It is International Reggae Day. So, with summer in mind, reggae in mind, and of course COVID-19 protocols at the center, today we unfold a journey worth taking. And as always, I'm Theodore Henry, happy to welcome you and take you through this edition of Jamaica Magazine. Let's get to it.
An important message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. What to do if you think you have been exposed or are experiencing signs and symptoms of COVID-19. Immediately call 888-1-LOVE. That's 888-663-5683. In addition, you should stay at home. Don't go to work, school, or any public place. Do not use public transport, and avoid visitors to your home. You may need to do this for up to 14 days to reduce the spread of the infection. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
As we work to reduce the spread and impact of the virus, government is putting in much needed work. Here's the latest update on what the state has been up to in the fight against COVID-19.
While certain variables may remain fairly constant, there are other variables that are changing. And some of those variables are not totally in our control. So even though we had a 0.7% positive rate for the numbers that came in, I think about 14,000 or so over that period, the truth is, when you look external to Jamaica, despite the efforts of our team members, the reality is that primary source markets, whether for residents or non-residents coming in, that risk profile is also changing. But it is changing in a way that requires us to assess that risk, not just as one destination, meaning North America, but looking at states within North America and applying a particular risk profile depending on the different states. And that's what we have done in assessing where that risk is greatest and why testing as part of the overall screening process may have to continue. And we juxtapose that against the capacity of the local team to continue in a sustainable way the type of 100% testing. I mean, everybody will be screened, and frankly speaking, we have always screened at our ports of entry. And I think Jamaicans need to recognize that. Sometimes you don't notice it, but temperature checks are done. The nurses are always there, and they will pull you from the line if they suspect, question you, and of course, subject you to further interrogation if necessary, depending on what they're looking for. So that will continue for everybody. But as it relates to testing, we think that we're at a point, and given the capacities of our resources, the public health team, and the infrastructure, where we can now distinguish the risk from one state to the next, and by extension, individuals depending on where they're coming from, and then apply an approach that may not always involve testing. At the same time, I want to just reiterate that not all non-residents will come from a country that is high risk. And the risk profile we use, the determination based on rates of infection, but also we're guided by the WHO, the World Health Organization, and PAHO to conclude on those countries that are high risk or states that are high risk. Where that risk is deemed not to be as great, then testing would not be necessary in those cases based on the designation of the risk. And the health authorities will make that determination. And I just want to say to those who may be concerned that we, in public health, as is the case with the government, will not take any decision that is going to jeopardize or unnecessarily put the country at risk. I close by just giving an update on Norwood and West Kingston. So we did 2 days, Thursday and Friday, June 25th to 26th. In the case of West Kingston, we had a team of nearly 100 or so public health workers in that particular community. We visited 264 homes. We interviewed 721 citizens, and we collected 137 samples. We had 4 positive cases in the first instance, and we discovered 1 additional positive case. And that represented for us a much better understanding of what is happening there. And we did not find a need for quarantining the community. And finally, in terms of Norwood, we did 2 days. That's Friday and Saturday, June 26 and 27. We had 40 staff members there. We did 63 home visits, interviewed 279 persons, collected 165 samples. And through the contact tracing, which is contacts of the original case, we discovered an additional 8 cases. At this point, we did not see the need for quarantining the community. But it just goes to show the effort that is required and why we need the resources in the communities where we believe the risk could be great if we allow a community spread to take place.
For years, the world has been bowing its ears to the fine tune released from the Jamaica soundtrack, the tune of reggae. And just like its melody, its history and journey have been remarkable. Here's a bit on that from one man's perspective as we observe International Reggae Day.
The music industry has been quite well documented, and to my recollection, it started more of an effort to play music that other people couldn't play than as an industry. So from where it started, for me, it started with sound system owners who wanted to remain exclusive, decided that the best way to do that was to, produce their own stuff. And people saw how important it was. Artists were, coming up. I think it was the birth of an industry. Reggae is the soundtrack of our lives, In other words, it's not like we made an effort to boy, we're gonna like reggae. Reggae is of us, about us, with us, and it has remained true to us as a Jamaican expression. And when I say reggae, I don't make the distinction between fast reggae, slow reggae, ska. I just call Jamaican music reggae. It was very unstructured in the beginning, and persisted like that for a number of years until people like Chris Blackwell saw the financial possibilities involved in investing. So I guess it really came to front with the Millie Small, that big hit that he had, and people started to see money. So this could in fact be an industry, and how popular music like ska was, that it gave rise to songs and bands, and people. Jamaica was dancing and people were enjoying themselves, and it probably was a good time in the history of Jamaica. Not everybody can do the twist. It kind of unearthed just a creative spirit in Jamaican, and we broke all of the recording rules, but we came up with a product that kind of represented the kind of Jamaican spirit, and that indomitable spirit, and it gave a sort of voice or expression to our Africanness. Like everybody growing up in my age, we had 2 sets of things. I grew up in the golden age of both Jamaican music and the Motown era and the Philadelphia era. And radio played a lot of American music. We were naturally drawn to the best of American music. But you realize that when you got to a party and they started to play the local section of music, because it was talking about things that you were familiar with. You went, and then you were able to see these individuals at stage shows and parties. So it became even more personal.
Standing at the party, watch me now. Ice cream, watch out. Me a chat microphone from me liquor so.
Music is just being constantly made. I don't think we have taken time out to actually figure out how we're going to monetize the creation of all this music. But it is there. It is being consumed in every nook and cranny of Jamaica, every bar, everything, and in households. And then we have this phenomenon of this weekly dance, this nightly dance, music thing on corners. And it has opened up a lot of economic opportunities for people in corners, bars, people selling on the road. And so it is almost self-sustaining by the nature of how it is done. So it is always going to be part of our lifestyle. From the 70s, 80s, 90s, Jamaica celebrated a number of great icons. We talk about the Ernest Smiths, the Pluto Shervintons, the Dennis Browns, the Gregory Isaacs, the Alton Ellis, and then we get into the megastar region of the Jimmy Cliffs and the Peter Tosh, and then the Bob Marleys.
I can't refuse it. Oh, what to be, got to be. Well, I feel like dancing.
Growing up, Dennis Brown was everybody's favorite singer. So when I got an opportunity to work with him, it was like the crowning, day in my life, in my musical history.
My head is anointed, and my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow all the days of my life.
I was led into professional music through some people that already did music. And the first time I got into a recording studio and became a part of that creative process, I was hooked for life, I realized earlier I didn't have the singing talent like a lot of my friends and comparable, but I realized that my contribution could be through songwriting and later into production and later on into just mentoring young people. Because we have a studio at Grafton and we have a really close association with the Jamaica School of Music, I get a front seat, front row look at a lot of the young talent coming out. And then we have a rehearsal room where we are now. I have a studio, so I get to see and hear a lot of the young talent and older talent. And here at Grafton we provide a sort of meeting place. I'm really always excited about introducing, new artists to old artists.
Yo, this is We're committed to reducing the impact of disasters occurring in Jamaica. We're ever ready to assist you before, during, and after a disaster. But everybody have a role to play, so make we work together and follow the plan. Whether rich or poor or where you come from, hurricanes affect everyone, so be prepared. Prevention is better than cure. Be prepared. Listen to OPM.
A message from the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management.
There are still things you can do this summer, even while following government's COVID-19 protocols. Things like learning about some of our great houses and enjoying a rather cool summer.
A land with a blue depth of Caribbean Sea embracing its shores, with trees shading your backs, with the wind gusting through the branches to play a reggae beat on our skins, and above all, a land with a tropical climate. It's warm weather all year round, but with a slight variation between summer, winter, and a little more variation between hot and cold, just cool enough. This is Jamaica, and this is a cool summer in Jamaica. If you want to experience a cool Jamaica this summer, an ideal place to be would be cool Mandeville, but not just anywhere in Mandeville, Marshall's Pen Great House. And this is where my next summer stop took me.
We're at my home and private nature reserve, which is Marshall's Pen in Mandeville. So Marshall's Pen is located north of Mandeville, in a village called Town. It's like the rest of Mandeville. It's a little bit cooler, not as cool as it used to be, but it's still cooler than Kingston.
This natural reserve supports many endemic and rare species of plants, birds, and reptiles. So if you're keen on learning about the beauty of nature, then you'll fall in love with this 18th century property.
Marshall's Pen is unique because of its location with mid-level forest, and to be so close to Mandeville and still have a lot of good quality forest. Jamaica has altogether 30 species of endemic birds, and 23 of those can be found right here. So as far as possible, I try and grow endemic and native species in the garden. So some of them are found here naturally and some I bring from other places. Some examples are the Pitcairnia bromeliad, which I brought here from Dolphin Head. It has some lovely red flowers and attracts hummingbirds. There's also the vervine, which has pink flowers and attracts hummingbirds as well, very, very pretty. We also have some herbaceous plants like ramgoat dashalong. It's called that because it's reputed to have the quality of natural Viagra. A lot of people drink it, I don't. But yes, so the scientific name is Turnera ulmifolia. So also in the garden we have some very large and very old trees, and they're covered with bromeliads and orchids and other sorts of epiphytic plants that grow on the tree but don't damage it, and many things live inside those plants. So we have the whole ecosystem in the tree. Royal palm trees are also endemic. They're another good bird feeding tree. The fruits are loved by things like white crowned pigeons or ballpates. We have one of Jamaica's prettiest lizards here, if people can think of a lizard as pretty. I do. And that's the Graham's anole. The scientific name is Anolis grahami, and it's endemic to Jamaica. It's not found anywhere else, but it has different colours across the island. So here it's turquoise and orange and green and blue. We have 3 different hummingbirds in the garden: red-billed streamer-tail, the vervain hummingbird with the smallest, which is almost the smallest bird in the world, and also the mango hummingbird, which is larger than the streamer tail but dark and has some red colour. We also have lots of butterflies, dragonflies, and beetles. But one interesting one is the brightly coloured orchid bee, which is a turquoise colour, and you'll see it in my garden. You see it not so much on orchids but on the anthuriums, where it's collecting the pollen from the flowers of the anthurium, and it's going to use the scent to attract other bees.
This isn't only a place to enjoy the gifts of nature. Learn some more about our history as you enjoy this summer, like what it might have been like in the time of coffee, or the features of historic building designs.
The house was built probably in the early 1800s. And it has a traditional style of building. It had a wooden frame made out of Jamaican hardwoods like bullet and cedar, and the corners are made out of cut stone, and the spaces between them are filled in with what they call Spanish wall, which is made out of stones and red dirt, what they call red dirt mortar. Well, if you're walking around, you can also see the barbecues, which doubled then as now as a place to catch water. So there's no surface water here, so we have no springs, no wells, no other source of water but rainwater. And that's all caught on the roof and on the barbecue areas around the house, which are in the traditional style. And they were also used for drying coffee because this was a coffee property. Coffee really ended in the 1840s, and since then it's been a cattle property.
But the coffee storage house is now a cottage, so you can definitely stay over and enjoy eco-tours like bird watching and...
A lot of writers, bird watchers and artists love to come here to enjoy themselves, especially in the summer when it's cooler.
And just like that, a cool summer can be had in our Jamaica. There's somewhere here fitting for just about any temperature you'd like to experience.
By order, under the Disaster Risk Management Act, you must wear a mask in all public access places and in public transportation. If you wear a mask and I wear a mask, we are all safer.
As the government moves to ease the COVID-19 restrictions, we can't deny the reality or presence of a lingering virus. So as you go about your daily lives, ensure you always have your mask. Here's a bit of information on how to properly use them.
The government has been getting not necessarily requests, but persons seeking an understanding of government's position on the wearing of masks. And I'm going to invite the CMO to give us her guidance on this matter.
The Ministry of Health recommends the use of personal protective equipment by healthcare personnel. Our immediate priority is to secure personal protective equipment for health workers who are exposed by close contact with persons who are ill. Close contact means that health workers are within the 6 feet distance from their patients, and the wearing of personal protective equipment protects them from exposure. They cannot avoid close contact in order to care for patients, and that is why personal protective equipment are a must. The proper use of personal protective equipment by the health worker reduces the risk from high risk to no risk, even in environments of highest possible exposure. But even the highest trained healthcare worker has to be trained repeatedly in the donning and doffing of personal protective equipment. And the area where there is one of the greatest risk of infection is in the removal of a contaminated mask. The general public is encouraged to avoid close contact with possibly infected persons by several measures, including stay at home, avoid crowded situations, and avoid ill persons. Now, many persons are advocating for the routine wearing of masks by the general public. And yes, we agree that it can be helpful. It does offer some protection, especially where there are persons who are coughing and sneezing within your 3 to 6 feet personal space. It is not totally harmless, however, and the public must be cautious. Wearing a mask continuously is uncomfortable, and you must avoid touching and adjusting the mask, as if the mask is contaminated, you will contaminate your hands and infect yourselves and others. Perform hand hygiene every time you touch the mask. As soon as there is contamination of the mask, it must be discarded, as the risk gets higher of you contaminating yourself. If the mask is not worn properly, it will go up into your eyes. Do not rub or touch your eyes after touching the mask. Again, hand sanitize after touching the mask. Discard the mask if it becomes soiled or moist. This increases your risk of infecting yourself and others. You may be taking germs on the mask into several different settings and increasing the risk of transmission. Remove the mask by grasping the loops that are either at the back of your head or behind your ears and pulling forward and away from your face. Do not touch the front of the mask. The Ministry of Health and Wellness recommends the use of masks by persons who are ill with coughing and sneezing, persons who are quarantined or isolated at home with or without respiratory symptoms, and household members who care for the person or are in the same house. Persons who have COVID-19 and have been discharged from hospital should wear a mask for 2 weeks after they have been released and exercise infection protection control measures to safeguard family members. Persons who are at high risk of developing severe illness and complications of illnesses, such as the elderly and persons with chronic illnesses. These persons must avoid ill persons and minimize contact with the public. All other considerations are at the public's discretion. The wearing of the mask must be in addition to other infection control measures, such as regular hand washing and hand sanitizing, covering coughs and sneezes, and avoid touching your faces and avoid contact with ill persons.
A facial barrier can be helpful, whether it is a medical type mask like an N95, or maybe something like this, or probably something like this. It's a pretty nice looking mask. However, there are risks associated with them, and they are not substitutes for good practices that we have been saying. Washing the hands with soap and water. If you don't have, then sanitize. If you have to cough or sneeze, then the bend of your elbow is best, and don't touch anyone else afterwards. Maintaining your social distance. All of that is good. This would be in addition to. But the mask is a surface. And particularly in a situation where it is blocking the particles from coming in, they will rest on the surface. And like any other surface, the virus will live on it. So you have to be careful in, as you say, doffing, that is taking it off. So you can't hold the mask like this to take it off. You should take it off from here. If you're going to make that personal decision, then you should firstly seek not to deprive the medical professionals who would need the mask. But outside of that, it's your personal choice, bearing in mind the guidance that we have given.
Today is a global recognition and celebration of reggae music, as the world, though far apart, comes together to celebrate International Reggae Day. Here's how you can be a part of this cultural celebration, even while taking precautions against the remaining threat of COVID-19. Number 1, you can organize your own event in honor of the impact that reggae music has had on the world. However you choose to do this, pay attention to COVID restrictions that may apply to your area, especially as it regards gathering sizes and other safety protocols. Number 2, you can create a virtual charitable event for any charity of your choice, since the day also calls for giving, supporting, and helping. Number 3, you can get involved in International Reggae Day through Twitter by using the hashtag International Reggae Day. Tweet about some good reggae memories. And number 4, you can simply celebrate with many around the world by listening to a few of your favorite reggae tracks. Reggae music is a staple of our culture and country. This is one element that is fueling Vision 2030. And when you begin to support this element of our culture, you're also helping to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. We hope that you learned something because, well, that's as much as we could share with you today. Join us tomorrow for more Jamaica Magazine. We're here every day preparing new content to share with you. You can also watch the recap of today's show by visiting our YouTube channel, and you can keep up with the JIS by visiting our website and follow us on our Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter pages. From all of us here at the JIS, I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.